Zack Snyder dropped some really cool details about his upcoming Justice League, which is coming to HBO Max in 2021, including when you can see some exclusive footage from it. I've got the entire breakdown right now. Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, and so Zack Snyder gave an interview to Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailers today where he decided to talk at length about some of the cool things we can expect from his Snyder Cut of Justice League. And he started with one of the big topics that we've always been asking ourselves: how long is this film going to be? Now, it was kind of funny to see Zack lean into the fact that he's been teasing this 214-minute runtime for Justice League, but he admitted in this interview that it was not going to be 214 minutes anymore. He's been given himself the opportunity to add more footage to the cut, to expand it. One thing that he didn't specifically say when it comes to the length, though, is whether he's referring to this as a full movie or a television series, which is something that we have discussed in our previous Snyder Cut videos. There is the rumor going around, and Zack didn't address it directly, but he also sort of danced around it, that instead of delivering a movie version of Justice League on HBO Max, he could take his existing footage, add more stuff to it through reshoots and production additions, and turn it into a multi-part television series, whether it be 4 parts, 5 parts, 6 parts, that has sort of teases in between each episode and builds along the story that he wanted to tell in some type of continuity in a multi-episode format. We don't know what he's going to do yet with regards to that, but we just know it's going to be much longer than that 214-minute runtime that he's been teasing for years.
This is amazing.
That brings us to the conversation of where Zack Snyder's Justice League fits into the continuity of the existing DCEU. And in short, it doesn't. The fact that Zack sort of finished filming this movie back in 2016 means that there will be 5 years that have passed between when he stopped filming it and when it's actually going to be seen on HBO Max, and so much has changed in the DCEU between then. Aquaman himself, played by Jason Momoa, has his own standalone film. We've seen developments with characters like Shazam, and Wonder Woman is getting a film, even though it's set in 1984, so it wouldn't really disrupt the continuity. But the way that Zack sort of described it to people in this interview is that his movie is going to be a standalone thing that's separate from the DCEU now, and doesn't have any obligation to continue the storylines that people are following in those movies. He's sort of saying that all he needs to do is satisfy the narrative that has been established in Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and now his Justice League film. And the way that he compared it to is like when an artist takes on a signature run in DC Comics and only has to tell a story that lasts for a designated amount of issues. It doesn't have any effort to push forward any stories that you're seeing in other books. It can be its own standalone thing, and Zack is able to fully concentrate on his Justice League without worrying how it affects everything else. Personally, I think that's great that Zack is freed up from having to continue a much larger story. I think there's a lot of pressure on a film when it's part of a larger cinematic universe, and I use this example with Marvel all the time, that I think they got very lucky in trying to build a 23 film story arc that didn't collapse in on itself. Taking Zack Snyder's Justice League out of the existing DCEU and not making it have to set up 5 additional films means that Zack can just concentrate on the one story that has to make that Justice League movie start really well from start to finish. And I almost wish he had some of that freedom when he started this whole path, because it might have changed some of the direction that he would have gone in, and maybe he would have been able to complete it in 2017 and deliver that version that he wanted to do right then and there. Because now we've seen that the DCEU has moved on in new directions. We expect to see a Flash movie that has Ezra Miller potentially resetting everything in a Flashpoint narrative. We see Robert Pattinson going and doing his own Batman films that aren't connected to everything else, and it means that you can introduce other characters like the Green Lantern Corps, or maybe even Black Adam, and see how he ties into Shazam without worrying about it all tying back together into a Justice League narrative.
That's the plan.
The most important thing that Zack said in the interview with Grace Randolph is when you are going to be able to see some footage. Now, if you've been paying attention to our YouTube page, you know that there's a fan event called Justice Con that's coming to the internet on July 25th and 26th. As part of that presentation, Zack is going to be holding a panel on Saturday evening, the 25th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the cat is out of the bag. He kind of revealed that he's going to be showing a clip from Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is coming to HBO Max. He wouldn't give any details about what the clip was going to be, but he seemed really excited to be able to share some footage. And at the end of that, he also said that he's going to have a very special announcement that's more geared toward the fans. Now, Zack has done stuff for the fans a number of times over the years. First off, in keeping the Snyder Cut movement going online, but he has hosted poster competitions, and he did an arts festival where people were submitting DC and Justice League themed art. He always has a really cool prize available for the people. The person who won the poster competition, as an example, received an invitation to go to the set of the reshoots of Justice League. And I don't think that's happened yet, because we probably would have seen pictures or heard stories from Victor Koo, who won that poster competition. But it means that if Zack has an announcement geared up for fans, that I know people are going to want to tune into that panel. But of course, you're going to want to be there on Saturday to see the footage that he's going to reveal. They did use some footage from Wonder Woman seeing the first cave paintings of Darkseid as the official tease that the movie was coming to HBO Max. I don't think it's going to be that scene, but it will probably be something new that Zack's been working on, because he did say in the interview that he's been very busy in post-production for this. He's been able to do it in quarantine and communicate with all of his post-production people. And so you're going to want to tune into that Saturday panel at JusticeCon to see what clip Zack has chosen to show to fans.
Curious myself.
Stick around for JusticeCon, because on Sunday also, I'm going to be there. I'm hosting a panel at the end of the evening on Sunday where I'll be discussing the Release the Snyder Cut book that I've written and have talked about here on the YouTube page. I do have two really cool things planned for it. I'm going to keep them a surprise until you come to the panel on Sunday, but come with questions, because audience participation is going to be rewarded. While you're here, though, do me a favor, go down and hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. That way, when you're waiting for JusticeCon to come around and to learn more about the Snyder Cut, you can come to our YouTube page, surf through all of our fun videos, and learn every single time that we put a new entertainment video up on CinemaBlend's YouTube page.